to the magic word on tour. I'm actually in the house of Greg Lambert, the Truth, and
hello.
I've been in, right, and you are probably the only person I know. Actually, that's not true. G-Man has one. A room dedicated to wrestling.
Yes.
I want a room in my home dedicated to wrestling.
Every home should have one.
Was that the plan from the beginning when you moved in here? You were like, this room is my wrestling room.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't have a wrestling room in the old house, so when we moved in last year, we
I didn't have a wrestling room in my old house.
I didn't. It's
why we had to move.
It's a nightmare. We had to move because we didn't have a wrestling room. So I made sure that I took over the spare room, and because we now have a garage, all the things that would normally go in a spare room have gone in the garage, which we didn't have before. So I was able to
have your own wrestling room.
Have my own wrestling room.
I want my own wrestling room.
It's changed my life.
My pokey little flat hasn't got room for a wrestling room.
Not?
Maybe a wrestling corner.
I didn't show you, I've got all my Power Slam magazines up there as well.
Every single issue of?
Virtually every single. In fact, probably no, every single issue. Every single issue of Power Slam.
Were you and Power Slam?
Was I ever in it?
Yeah.
I wrote for it.
Oh, okay. I think I knew that actually.
For 12 years.
Wow. Were you writing for it when it went?
Yes.
Were you sad?
Very. Yes, because it paid well.
Why did it...
That wasn't the only reason. Finley, that wasn't the only reason. That's not the only reason why I'm sad.
Why did it stop? Because I loved Power Slam.
It stopped because, a combination of things, because Findlay Martin, the editor, it wasn't making a lot of money anymore, and I think Findlay kind of saw the writing on the wall for the magazine industry and decided he would end it while it was still profitable.
Okay, that's good.
And
at least
he'd been ill as well, which is common knowledge. I think he wrote it in his book. He'd had skin cancer.
Joy.
Which he's now fully recovered from, which is fantastic.
That's good.
And I think he'd always worked really long hours. He put a lot into it. He put a huge amount into Power Slam. It was basically a one-man operation. There was no full-time employees working in an office. It was him in a tiny little box room in his office in Lancaster, just 5 miles down the road. And then there was us who just worked for him freelance, and he'd just ring us up every month, and we'd discuss ideas for an article, then we'd write it and send it to him, and that'd be it. So he was basically working every hour God sends, and I think after doing that for 12 years, with having been ill and the fact that it wasn't making as much money as it used to, I think he just decided, well, enough's enough. Let's finish it.
It's a shame. Yeah, and I think
it's a shame because it was great. It was pioneering. It was a pioneering publication.
I think he did FSM a favour.
Well, to be honest with you, I think FSM's really upped its game.
Yeah.
I don't mean necessarily since Power Slam ended. I just think over the past few years, FSM has got a lot better.
It was maybe 3 or 4 years ago that it really started to invest in British stuff as well.
Yes.
Which is when I think that FSM got better. And perhaps that was something that it had that Power Slam didn't. And I really like the one to watch. I want to be the one to watch. Chris Egan was the one to watch.
I can't imagine I'll ever be the one to watch.
Greg Lambert and Magic Mark haven't been the one to watch, but Chris Egan has.
Well, it's all about the wrestlers. Chris Egan? Well, he's a trained wrestler, isn't he?
Yeah, that's true.
He's my son, Chris Egan.
He's your son?
That's the running joke. For years, everyone...
You're not that old.
No, seriously, when I first started in Future Shock in about 2000... Well, it was the first show I was on, 2004, the very first Future Shock show. I think Chris was around then. And for some reason, people thought he looked like my son.
I've met your son. He looks nothing like your son.
No. But he calls me Dad.
That's very kind.
Chris Egan calls me Dad.
Of course he would.
Which is nice. I think he's very good. I think he's a very talented manager.
Yeah, I love Chris Egan's managing.
Yes.
I've only ever got very, very kind of small opportunity. Just one place, and one place has me as a baddie, and they look, well, by love what I mean is boo me a lot. Is down in Peterborough, Full House, and I have so much fun. So much fun. But Egan's got something that can appeal to every audience. Like I've seen him work with adults, and with adult audiences, and 18+ audiences. My pantomime villain just isn't going to cut it anywhere other than the super family friendly stuff.
Yes, Chris he's an excellent weaselly manager. He's the kind of person. What's good about Chris is that he's a classic old school manager in that you want to see him get beaten up.
Yes.
His heat transfers to the guy he's with, so you want to see his guy get beaten.
Yep.
But there's always an end game with Chris, because he's a trained wrestler. You will get that payoff.
Yeah.
He will get beaten up, and
Yeah.
he will take the bumps really well.
Oh, I get beaten up, and to be fair, I did a little bit of training.
Having said that, there is nothing wrong with a manager not being a trained wrestler like ourselves, because who says you have to take the bumps really well? Surely it's better sometimes you don't take the bumps really well, because then it's more realistic, because a manager's not supposed to flop around all over the place, and do somersaults when he gets slammed and power bombed. He's meant to
Have you been power bombed?
No, I haven't been.
Not me,
Don't power bomb me anyway.
No power bombs.
No, but I've had a few nasty things done to me over the years. I've been the worst thing. I got body slammed on a pile of drawing pins. I don't call them thumbtacks. We're in Britain.
I do the same.
And then I got splashed from the top rope while I was lying in the drawing pins.
Bloody hell.
That was pretty hardcore.
Yeah, I think the worst I've had is a 619.
No, we don't talk about that now, do we?
No, well I call it the RM8 because he's from Essex.
Ah,
See,
very good.
yeah, I was pleased with that.
So that's the worst thing you've had. I've had a 619. Bubblegum gave me a 619.
What else have I? What else have I? I've been thumped.
Yeah.
Oh, I've had a short-arm clothesline off Rampage Brown. You were there for that.
Yes.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, the worst one. I saw Alan Tasker.
Yes.
Take a tombstone pile driver off Johnny Moss on a GPW show. That's respect. Respect to the Tasker. Respect.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Respect.
I'd be comfortable with that.
I've been ram slammed by Johnny Fear.
What's a ram slam?
A ram slam is like being in a tumble dryer. It is. He picks you up, he spins you around a few times, and he drops you hard on your back. It's like a spinning spine buster.
Okay.
But it's a very good finishing move, actually. But I didn't move for about 30 minutes after that.
Right.
But I was... We're breaking kayfabe in this.
We are, yeah.
I was selling.
Selling. Yeah.
Light as a feather, safe as houses.
I got told off for being too good at going over the top ropes in the PCW Rumble,
Yeah.
Because I'd practiced, I'd gone to the
Did
Future
you?
Shock training school and practiced going out, so caught the top rope, arm over, put your hand on the apron, land on your feet. So almost like a cartwheel over the top rope.
Yeah.
And I practiced so much that I did it quite a lot more gracefully than perhaps I should have
That's
done.
the thing, you need to look really...
Yeah, so if I'd landed my head,
Incredibly
if I'd landed my
uncoordinated.
head or my face or my knees, I'd have been fine, but I kind of landed and went, oh shit, and then pretended to fall over. It wasn't as dignified as perhaps it could have been.
Shall I tell you my Rumble story?
Go on then.
I don't mean... I was in a PCW Rumble.
Yeah, the year after me.
The year after you, but the only LDN show I ever worked on.
LDN is the Sanjay Bagga one, isn't it?
Bagga.
Yeah. You wrote a lot about him in your book.
I have told this story in the book, but I'll tell it briefly.
Yeah.
I was not booked to be in a battle royal that night.
Right.
I was booked to manage in a match, and after the match had finished, and the heel who I was managing had won, Sanjay decided on the mic, on the spot, as he was ring announcer, Greg Lambert, as punishment, you're in the Rumble tonight. Didn't tell me I was going to be in the Rumble. I had absolutely no idea I was going to be in the Rumble. Not been discussed with me, So I went along with it, it's fine, I'm a professional. So I had a chat with my good friend Martin Kirby and Paul Malin. I said, look lads, you need to save me here, seriously, because Carl Kramer's in this Rumble. You ever met Carl Kramer? No. The Barbarian. Big, massive monster heel. Lovely guy.
Was it a battle royal or an actual rumble?
Terrifying in the ring. 10-man rumble.
Oh, okay. Actual rumble.
So I came out and Carl Kramer was already in the ring. This guy, this big monster, beating people up left, right, and centre. I said to Martin and Paul, I said, look, you're going to need to break my fall here because I haven't got a clue how to go over the top rope. Not a clue. So
you do a shit cartwheel and don't do it too gracefully.
Basically, that's what happened. I got thrown over the top rope, and between them, Martin and Paul acted like human crash mats. Right. And it looked absolutely awful. And all I remember was lying on the floor, like selling afterwards, and Bagger on the microphone going, "What in the bloody hell was that?" I thought, thanks, Sanjay.
Wow.
But you know what? He paid me. So in the end, who cares?
So that story's in your book, which is now...
And more besides.
It's what? 3 years since you wrote that?
The first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it came out in November 2012.
2012?
Mm.
Good grief, it's even longer than I thought it was.
Yeah.
I remember having an argument with you about a raffle when you were promoting that book.
Oh, a Future Shock.
I enjoyed
that
that
immensely.
immensely.
That was good. Yeah.
Raffle
I really loved that book tour. That was part of the book tour.
Yeah.
I loved it. I went to so many different promotions around the country, and I was made very, very welcome by everybody, by the promoters and by the fans, and it was a great experience. And that's the thing I'm looking forward to most about bringing out the second one.
That's what I was going to mention. You're bringing out a second one. When is it? When are we looking?
Well, I'm hoping it'll be out at the end of the year, but I've hit the wall mark, as happens from time to time when you're writing a book.
Right.
Because you get to the point where you just can't be bothered to write anymore, and then something will trigger it, and you'll get back into it. And I'm at the stage now where it's pretty much written. I need to do a few extra bits and pieces, but it's stalled a little. So
editing sucks.
Yeah, it's hard work.
I
Really
actually have a
hard work.
completed book too, you know.
Do you?
Yeah, I wrote a steampunk thing.
Really?
About 4 or 5 years ago.
Right.
And it's... Have you ever heard of NaNoWriMo?
No.
It's this thing where you write a book in a month. It's a challenge to write 1,700 words every day for a month.
Right.
I've only done it once. I tried it again and failed miserably. But the whole point, the whole thing is that book's quite... It's quantity over quality, and then you can play with it to make it quality. Is the idea of doing it, is to actually get yourself to write a book.
Yeah.
Editing sucks. I don't envy you at all. But you should do it. I want to read your second book.
I'm going to do it. It's done. It's pretty much done. I could release it now because it's done. I'm just not 100% happy with it. I just want to get a few more little interviews and change a few things. Maybe take a few bits out, rewrite a few bits.
Don't take the bit with me in it out there.
No, absolutely not. There are a few bits with you in it, Mark.
I knew there was one.
There are a few.
Few, gosh.
Oh yes.
Do I come across okay?
Of course.
Excellent.
Of course, you come across very well.
Excellent.
No reason. Do you know something? The vast majority of people who I've met in the wrestling business, I don't have any issues with, you know. And even the people who I do, to be honest with you, I'm too long in the tooth to
Yep.
hold grudges, I suppose.
Life's too short to be arsed about that stuff.
Yes, I don't hold any grudges. I'm not angry with anyone. But yeah, there's a few people who over the years who I've kind of had problems with, and I kind of think now, what on earth?
Yeah.
What was it about?
And it's like, at the time, it's the most important thing in your life, and you have to get revenge. You have to.
Yeah.
And then a year or so later, you're like,
I wrote.
what the fuck was I doing?
This is
myself extra grey hairs over that shit.
You mentioned Andy Simmons upstairs, and in the first book, I wrote some things about Andy, about my impressions of him when we were younger, when we were both in the FWA, and there were, I wasn't particularly positive about his character, but I look back now and I think, what was I don't remember that at all, really, and I've got nothing but fond memories of working with Andy. We did some really good stuff together in FWA, so Andy, if you're watching this, I'm sorry about what I wrote in the books. I don't know. I don't know why I did it. Really,
it wasn't Andy that I thought you gave a slate in it.
I didn't really give him a. I didn't really give. I think I just said that. I think I said that I thought at times he got a bit big for his boots or something like that. And,
I thought you were incredibly honest and brave.
I don't even remember it now. I don't even. I'm thinking, where did I get that idea from? Because we did some great stuff. He was in Hampton Court in the FWA as tag team champions, and I managed the family. We had a great feud and nothing but positive memories of working with him. So,
were you worried when you released the book that you might get thumped by the people?
Terrified.
You were perhaps a little bit more honest. You were more honest than I expected. When I read it,
Yes.
you were more honest than I expected.
Yeah.
Or rather, perhaps you might have omitted some of the stuff that you put in. Is what I mean. The whole book was obviously completely honest. What I'm getting at is there's things that you put in there. I'm like, fucking hell, he put that in. Yeah,
it's interesting actually, because I was absolutely terrified that a few people would seek me out and try to hurt me, but nobody has. I got, I think, a couple of people rang me up and said, I wasn't 100% happy with that, and I think there's three people who've contacted me and just said, queried a few things that were in the book, either thought they were inaccurate or weren't happy about them, but nothing to the stage where it was, I'm going to rip your head off kind of thing. I think it's been generally very well received, but you've got to be honest. But again, it's amazing you say that, because some people will look at the book and think I was holding back. So it's different things to different people, I think.
In all honesty, it's not a book I would have written because I would have held back.
Yeah.
I know I would have done, and I admire you for.
I did on
for
some
what you
things.
Right.
I did on some things.
Well, I would have held back.
There's some
more.
things that I could have written more about, which I didn't, for whatever reason. I think the second book, I'm probably in a stage where I'm kind of thinking, well, like I said before, it's not really worth cutting loose on people for things that really aren't that important in the grand scheme of things. And besides, there's too many positive things that have happened in British wrestling over the past 10 years to write about. There's very little negative to write about. There's been some, I mean, I've been involved in some interesting stories. The comeback of the FWA is a great story.
Yeah. You've been doing this a long time, is it 14 years?
14 years, yeah.
14 years, which is double
Yeah.
how long I've been around. When I first came in, you were kind of like the guy doing exactly what I wanted to do and doing it better than I ever thought I could. You're still kind of like that. But no, I mean, you were a role model to me. I came in and I was clueless, and then I read your book and you were clueless as well. So that was kind of when I read your book, I was like, oh, thank fuck, it wasn't just me.
It's
you know?
embarrassing. I can't believe, there's a story in the book, I cannot believe it when I look back now, that I actually got Nikita to slap me backstage before she was going to do it for real in the ring, so I could get a feel for what it felt like. How green must you be?
She must have found that hilarious.
She must have done. I tell you what, the first time she cracked me one was well properly with wrist bone.
Very nice. I'll learn. You earned it, Gregory.
Learn me. It was an accident. Can't. I know it was an accident. I think it was an accident. No, it was.
Do you know the amount, all the silly things I've taken? The hardest hit I've had was from Violet Vendetta.
Yeah.
Because I told her, don't you fucking pull. Don't you pull this. You hit me.
Yeah.
So she just slapped me as hard as she could. She knocked my glasses into the front row.
That's what happened to me. That's when we did it for real.
Excellent.
That's what Nikita did. And Dan Reed was sat in the second row and he caught them. How lucky was that?
That's amazing.
My best mate in wrestling, and he thankfully bailed me out, otherwise I would have to go and get some
returned to me. It definitely wasn't Dan Reed.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I like Violet Vendetta. I tell you what, I like her gimmick with Rob Sharp.
Yeah.
I love, can I just say that I love Rob Sharp?
Yep.
What a positive guy.
He is the next guest on this show, actually.
Is he really?
You didn't know that.
Well, what a seamless link.
Yeah, quite.
He referees for us in Alpha Omega Wrestling in Morecambe.
Okay, right.
And he's a versatile guy. So he's a wrestler, he's a manager, he's a referee, and he's an absolute sponge. He just absorbs information. He's always got a great attitude. He helps with everything, putting the ring up, taking it down. Whatever needs doing, Rob will do it. He is an absolute credit and an asset to any promotion. Promoters, listen, it's the truth.
Oh, he gets his fair bookings. He gets a lot of bookings these days, does our Rob? But
and he's doing this gimmick with Violet Vendetta. I don't know which promotion it's in, but I've seen the photos of them together and they look
something kind of kinky.
That's it. They look amazing. Yeah. And that's what you need to do if
they look kind of kinky.
Yeah. Advice to budding wrestlers. If you want to stand out, because there are 1,000,001 of you who are pretty good in Britain right now, get decent publicity photos done.
Yep.
Because that is what's going to get you noticed.
Yep. I couldn't agree more.
Even more than a match, even more than a video of a match.
Now, we are nearly on time, because these are supposed to be 25 minutes.
Really? Can we go on for longer?
Well, we can. Maybe do like an extra one, if you really want to.
Yeah.
But what I like to finish with occasionally, I don't always do it, but what I like to finish with occasionally is... if you were being interviewed by someone, what question would you like them to ask you?
Oh, you put me on the spot now. Do you know, there are so many questions over the years that I'm thinking I would like people to ask me, and I can't think of one.
Or you can just tell me a good story.
Off the top of my head.
Tell me a good story, Greg.
What do you want to know a good story about?
You getting lamped?
Me getting lamped?
Yeah.
I've told you the best one. That was Nikita.
Oh right. Okay.
What else has happened to me when we got? Oh, there was a time that Dave Mastiff and Stallion dropped me.
Why would they do such a thing?
That was pretty good. Well, it was at Morecambe, and it was the end of an 8-man tag at the Winter Gardens, and as a result of my team losing, the babyfaces all decided to grab me and throw me out of the front door. But Dave Mastiff picked me up by the left leg.
Right.
And I think he thought that Stallion was going to pick me up by the right leg.
Right.
He didn't. So Dave ended up picking me up, and I
Hanging you.
Yeah, no, I toppled over, and he basically half powerbombed me on the concrete. So yes, I have been powerbombed.
You have been sort of
powerbombed by accident.
Excellent.
He dropped me on the floor, and that. I just remember, I think Ligero was there. I just remember him laughing. Ligero laughing.
Laughing in Spanish.
In Spanish. And then they all picked me up and threw me out in freezing December cold and chucked me in a plant pot. A giant plant pot on Walker Promenade.
Excellent.
Which, of course, as the fans followed me out, I sold. Because that's what you've got to do.
Yeah.
Wrestling people. Yeah. Selling. The lost art of selling. Always sell.
Do you remember when you and me pretended we had a problem with each other for about 12 months? In front of fans? And I found it really difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was learning from you as we were going along, because you would just walk into a venue and blank me if there were any fans. And I was like, Greg doesn't like me. But then you made it quite clear backstage that wasn't the case. And I was like, that's genius!
You know what? It's difficult to do that now.
It is.
Because I come from the era where I used to hear stories about Finlay. Finlay breaking fans' thumbs when they would come up to him or snapping fans' thumbs when they would come up to him and say, "Oh, can I have an autograph?" Or that wrestling, it's not real, is it? And he would go, "Give us your thumb." That's real, isn't it? You know, stuff like that.
So how do you think he actually did that?
Brookside tells that story.
Shit.
So I think so, or a version of it. So I come from that era. But I also wrote for Power Slam, which was the biggest expose of the business. So I'm a complete hypocrite as a journalist. But that's my job. I'm a journalist. You've got to be honest as a journalist. But I believe in wrestling. I still believe in wrestling. That the more you can keep secret from the fans in the building, the better. And that's why Morecambe wrestling has been so successful over the years, and we still draw big crowds to a tiny little seaside town with a population of 37,000 because our fans totally believe it, and that's there are very few places that are like that now.
That is fantastic. I'm a fan of stuff that, in fact I'd like your opinion on this, I'm a fan of stuff that, do you remember the first time it was done? It was the Matt Hardy and Lita thing where in real life she'd treated him like shit and left him and
with
stuff.
edge.
Yeah,
yes.
I love stuff that plays with things that fans might have heard. Like, we very briefly discussed the idea of some kind of dumping angle with my boyfriend. We decided it couldn't go anywhere. It wasn't any good, and it would do nothing for him, and it would just make me look quite pathetic. So we decided against it because we couldn't think of anywhere to take it. But we did discuss me being dumped in the ring. Because no one's done a gay relationship in the ring at all.
That would be very different. It would,
But we couldn't think of a way to make it work.
People would talk about.
But I love stuff like that. So again, the Kaylee Ray and El Ligero thing, that was so edgy because there'd been very public problems previously.
I that's what I always try to do is if
I love stuff like
personal issues draw money. That's what Jerry Lawler says in his book, and it's something that I've always tried to do. Because there's nothing better than a real life situation turned into a storyline.
Yeah.
We did it with XWA versus GPW, we were talking about it earlier. That started as a result of a silly issue that myself and Johnny Brannigan, the promoter of GPW, had with each other in real life. We had an issue with each other. And we had a not really a row, we had a difference of opinion over something. And then I just thought, do you know something? I'm quite sort of wound up by this. If I can get wound up by this in real life, and he's clearly wound up by it, we can put this in front of the people and turn it into something special. And we did. We put the real life issue out there as a storyline. People bought it completely because it was real.
That's fantastic.
And it ended up as probably the greatest thing I've ever done as a booker. The XWA GPW feud, where we had a show in 2012. Team competition, XWA versus GPW, and we had GPW fans on one side of the building, XWA fans in 2/3 of the building, but it was like a football crowd.
Amazing.
Like, GP done! XWA! GP done!
Amazing.
Before the show even started.
That's fantastic.
We were backstage hearing the chants. We hadn't even gone out. No one had even gone out through the curtain.
I'd love to be a part of
And
something like that.
and the emotion that night was unbelievable. The partisan nature of the crowd, and when we lost at the end, there was our fans. They were in tears. They were hugging each
That's
other,
amazing.
comforting each other in the front
Amazing.
row. That's what we do. That's what we do in Morecambe, and I'm very proud of it. It's proper emotion. That's what we do. That's what wrestling should be. You know, it's not about. El Ligero said something that was really interesting to me when I interviewed him for the book. He said, "There's only so many times that you can bang two action figures together," and he's talking about, you know, your dream matches.
Yeah.
You know, wrestler A versus wrestler B for the sake of having a great match.
Not wrong with a dream match,
Nothing wrong with it, but don't do every single match like that on the show.
Yeah.
And you know, don't have an entire. Well, can you have an entire promotion built around it? Yes, you can. No, you can.
Yeah,
If that's your audience, then that's fine. There are promotions, I think, in Britain that are very much like that are very successful. But you'll get to the point eventually where you're going to run out of talent. You're going to run out of dream matches, aren't you? Eventually.
Well, I think so.
Maybe you won't. Maybe you will. It's not my style. I prefer doing something where the people are really engaged with it. They care who wins or loses. They're not just there to go, "This is awesome, 5-star match."
Quite. Well, I think that is a perfect way to end the Magic Word with Greg Lambert. So thank you very much for being on, and I will see you next time.
Thank you.